I was super lucky to have her, and I felt.
There's a practice court in Mallorca that doesn't care about your ranking. The red clay doesn't know you're 44th in the world. It doesn't know you're 20 years old, or that you flew in from the Philippines, or that the woman standing on the other side of the net has 6 Grand Slam trophies sitting in a display case somewhere. All the clay knows is what you do with the ball. And on May 2nd, Alex Eala was doing plenty. The photographs came out quietly at first, just filtering through Filipino tennis pages, the kind of grainy practice court shots that fans screenshot and repost before anyone with a press credential has even noticed. But people noticed, because the shots weren't showing a young wild card trying to survive drills. They were showing a 20-year-old from Manila apparently more than holding her own against a 6-time Grand Slam champion on one of the most famous clay surfaces on the planet, the Rafa Nadal Academy, the place where a boy from a small Spanish island turned red dirt into a religion. And the practice sets being whispered about in fan circles were not going the way the rankings would suggest they should. 2 days later, Eala was on a flight to Rome. And that's where this story gets genuinely complicated, because Rome in May is not just a tennis tournament. It's a coronation. Except this year, the queen who is supposed to be crowned is walking and looking over her shoulder. Let's rewind to February, because nothing about what's happening right now in Italy makes sense without going back to Dubai first. February 17th, round of 32. Jasmine Paolini, the reigning Italian Open champion, the first Italian woman in nearly 4 decades to lift that trophy at the Foro Italico, walks out onto court against an unseeded 20-year-old she has never faced before. What followed was not a close match. It wasn't a grinding clay court battle decided by margins. Paolini was dismantled. 6-2, 6-1, with a tiebreak in there that only underlines how completely Eala controlled that afternoon. 27 minutes was all it took for her to take a set off a top 10 player. The kind of scoreline that doesn't get explained away by a bad day or an unlucky draw. This was clinical. This was a left-hander stepping onto a hard court in the desert and making a seeded champion look like she'd forgotten the rules of the game. It was Eala's 3rd career top 10 win, her first of 2026. And in that Dubai stadium, with flags from the Philippines filling the stands and a crowd that had turned a 3rd-round match into something resembling a national celebration, Eala walked to the microphone afterward and said 9 words that stopped the room. How many of you have prayed for me? Think about that for a second. Not a celebration. Not a victory speech. A question. Directed at a crowd of people who had traveled, who had carried flags, who had stayed up through time zone gaps just to be in that building. And the building answered. Now cut back to Paolini at her own press conference that same evening, standing at a microphone having just been handed the most embarrassing scoreline of her 2026 season, and she called Eala huge for women's tennis. Said it was really important to have players from all around the world competing at this level. Read that once, and it sounds gracious. Read it again, and you start to feel the weight of it. A defending finalist publicly anointing the woman who just beat her. That's not a compliment. That's a concession speech. And those words have been echoing through the draw sheets ever since. Fast forward to April 23rd, Madrid. First round. Anastasia Pavlyuchenkova, a woman who has played professional tennis for 18 years, who reached the Roland Garros final in 2021, who has spent the better part of 2 decades building a reputation as one of the most dangerous clay court players on tour, steps onto the dirt against Eala and loses in straight sets. 6-3, 6-3. Not close. Not complicated. Straight sets on red clay against a clay court veteran who knows every inch of that surface. And then Pavlyuchenkova does something that should have set off alarm bells across every locker room in Europe. Less than 24 hours after the loss, she tells reporters publicly that Eala's game is consistent and well-suited to clay courts. Now understand what that sentence actually means coming from that particular mouth. Pavlyuchenkova was not being polite. She was not filling time at a press conference with flattering noises. Clay court veterans who have played 18 years on the tour do not go on record telling the world that a 20-year-old's game translates to the dirt unless they have just physically felt what that game can do. She wasn't warning the press. She was warning everyone who still had Eala penciled in as a soft draw at the Foro Italico. She was warning Sabalenka. She was warning the unseeded half of the bracket. And most pointedly of all, she was warning Jasmine Paolini, 11 days before the Italian Open's first ball was struck. But here's the part that makes Rome feel genuinely different from every other stop on this clay.
Swing.
Italy is home to around 165,000 Filipino residents, the largest Filipino community in continental Europe, and a significant portion of them are in Rome itself. The same crowd energy that turned a Dubai third-round match into a global moment is already being mobilized. Filipino sports pages operating out of Italy are coordinating attendance. The hashtag #LabanAlex, which translates roughly to fight on, was trending on Filipino sports desks in Manila before the Rome draw had even been printed. Jasmine Paolini was supposed to walk into the Foro Italico this week and feel the full weight of hometown support, the kind of advantage that only defending champions in their own country really understand. Instead, she's walking into a court that might feel more like a Manila satellite venue than an Italian one, in a city that is legitimately split on who to cheer for. The home court advantage she was supposed to inherit has been quietly redistributed, and it happened without anyone making an announcement. Now, let's talk about the ranking math, because the ranking math is its own pressure cooker sitting underneath all of this. Paolini walks into Rome seeded 9th. Not 1st. Not 3rd. 9th. At a tournament she won 12 months ago. A defending WTA 1000 champion seated outside the top 8 at the same event a year later is not a statistical blip. It is a reflection of how the last 12 months actually went. 2,000 points are on the line for her this week. If Rome collapses, if she exits early in a tournament where she's defending a full title's worth of points, she could drop below the top 10 before Roland Garros seeding is even finalized. That matters because Roland Garros seeding determines whether you open against Sabalenka or a qualifier, whether you get the good side of the draw or the punishing one. And the woman who beat her in Dubai, the woman who drilled alongside Iga Swiatek on Mallorcan clay just days ago, is sitting unseated somewhere in that same Roman draw, looking at every round she wins as a brick being laid toward a better Paris bracket. When you frame it that way, Rome isn't just a tennis tournament for either of these players. It's a negotiation with the rest of their season. And Eala is coming in with nothing to lose and everything to build, which is maybe the most dangerous position in all of sport. But before anyone starts writing Paolini's eulogy, there's something worth sitting with here. Rome hurt Eala once. Not long ago. Last May, she walked onto a Foro Italico court for the first time and got bageled in the opening set by Marta Kostyuk. 6-love, 6-1. 48 minutes. First round exit. That scoreline lives in the record books, and Eala is walking back into that city carrying it. 8 days ago in Madrid, Elise Mertens did something similar. 6-2, 6-1. 2 sets, 3 games done. And for 2 full days after that match, Eala's social media went completely dark. No post. No story. No carefully worded resilience caption designed for public consumption. Just silence. 2 days of nothing. Then on May 1st, the Mallorca photographs emerged. Back on clay. Back in drills. Back beside one of the best players in the world on a practice court that does not hand out confidence. You have to earn it by the point. The window between the Madrid humiliation and the Rome arrival was 9 days. She spent it at the Rafa Nadal Academy. She did not need to post a comeback statement. The training partner's presence said everything that needed to be said. That is an interesting person. Not just an interesting tennis player. An interesting person. The kind who goes quiet after a loss not to hide, but to do the work. The kind who doesn't reach for the microphone when things go badly, but reaches for a practice court instead. And that matters because what she's walking into in Rome is not just a draw sheet. It's a story that the sport hasn't had in a long time. A 20-year-old from a country that does not have a long history of producing Grand Slam contenders, ranked 44th, unseeded, carrying a painful first-round memory of this exact tournament, walking back in 11 weeks after she dismantled the defending champion, with a community the size of a small city showing up to cheer in her language. There is no template for this. The WTA Tour has seen underdog stories before. It has seen young players break through. But the convergence of what's happening around Eala right now, the ranking trajectory, the clay court resume being assembled in real time, the cultural weight that follows her into every stadium, the silence after Madrid, and the photographs from Mallorca, it doesn't feel like a breakthrough anymore. It feels like an arrival. Pavlyuchenkova said on the record that the game is consistent and well-suited to clay. Swiatek, the most decorated clay court player of the modern era, shared a practice court with her in Mallorca and was apparently not coasting through the session. Paolini, after losing to her in straight sets, didn't criticize the loss or explain it away. She praised her. When three of the most credible voices on clay and women's tennis are pointing at the same player before the draw is even printed, you stop discounting it as coincidence. The Italian Open has not started. Not a single point of Paolini's title defense has been played yet. She could win the whole thing. She could put together 7 matches of flawless clay court tennis and defend every point she earned here 12 months ago. That is entirely possible. But the quiet certainty that the trophy is hers until someone proves otherwise, that particular kind of defending champion confidence, left in straight sets in Dubai 11 weeks ago. And it hasn't come back. The Princess of Rome is not bowing. She is bracing. And somewhere in that draw, an unseeded 20-year-old from the Philippines.